The sequel trilogy of the Skywalker saga has had its fair shares of ups and downs, ultimately dividing the Star Wars fanbase right in the middle. Because of the controversy surrounding the trilogy of films made after Disney purchased Lucasfilm, many fans have wondered what George Lucas's story ideas for the next 3 films would have entailed. In the years since the Disney purchase, some of these plans for another trilogy have made their way to the public, like one that would have focused extensively on the Force and midichlorians. Another idea that Lucas had could be found in the Star Wars Archives Episodes 1 through 3, the prequel, which was published back in 2020. As can be found in the book, George Lucas originally intended to use Darth Maul as the main villain. Keep in mind that this was the story plan that Lucas came up with following the character's supposed death in The Phantom Menace, before Maul was brought back to haunt the Jedi Order in the Clone Wars, and then meet his official demise in Star Wars Rebels at the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi. According to the book, Darth Maul trained a girl, Darth Talon, who was in the comic books as his apprentice. She was the new Darth Vader, and most of the action was with her. These were the 2 main villains of the trilogy. Maul eventually became the godfather of crime in the universe because, as the Empire falls, he takes over. While this story for a sequel trilogy never came to be, it doesn't look like the idea was completely thrown away either. Even though Darth Talon has yet to appear in canon, and possibly never will at this point, Maul does form a criminal syndicate after re-emerging from Lotho Minor in the Clone Wars, which then carries over to what we see briefly from the character in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Lucas then goes further into detail on how his sequel trilogy would further expand the roles of Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa. The movies are about how Leia is trying to build a republic. They still have the apparatus of the Republic, but they have to get it under control from the gangsters. That was the main story. It starts out a few years after Return of the Jedi, and we establish pretty quickly that there's this underworld. There are these offshoot stormtroopers who started their own planets, and that Luke is trying to restart the Jedi. He puts the word out, so out of 100,000 Jedi, maybe 50 or 100 are left. The Jedi have to grow again from scratch, so Luke has to find 2 or 3-year-olds and train them. It'll be 20 years before you have a new generation of Jedi. By the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi, and we would have the renewal of the New Republic, with Leia, Senator Organa, becoming the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything. So she ended up being the chosen one. While I personally enjoyed certain aspects of the sequels, this is a story that I would have really enjoyed to see, and I don't think that it's completely impossible for aspects of this to be interwoven into the current canon. We know that Luke eventually trained a new generation of Jedi, although it was a failure after the betrayal of Ben Solo. The idea that only 50 or 100 Jedi survived from the Republic is also an idea that seems to be relatively consistent with what we've seen so far. I know there are fans who don't like there being so many other Jedi alive during the time of the Empire, when Luke is told he is the last hope, and understandably so. But it also makes sense for a small percentage of Jedi to survive Order 66 and the Jedi Purge. Even though they may not be as active as they once were, it's very difficult for a former Jedi to hide away the Force forever, as they see the galaxy being oppressed by the Empire. Leia eventually becoming the Supreme Chancellor is also a similar story concept to that of Bloodline, where Leia runs for the first Senator of the New Republic, but her campaign ultimately fails after it is revealed that she is the daughter of Darth Vader. It would be interesting to know if her lineage would have played a part in her character journey during this potential sequel trilogy. The book also mentions that the trilogy would have started only a few years after Return of the Jedi, which means that Lucas more than likely would have had to recast the major roles, like Luke, Han, and Leia, since they all had aged 20 years since the release of Return of the Jedi, by the time the prequels ended. Lucas got a lot of hate for certain decisions made during the prequels, and there's no doubt that there would have been a similar reaction if he had recast such beloved characters. Even after 40 years since the original trilogy concluded, fans today were still adamantly against any of them getting recast for the sequels. One thing is for sure though, this would have been a very different trilogy than the one we got. Let me know if you would have preferred this trilogy in the comments below. Remember to like the video, and subscribe for more deep dives like this, and remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you all for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.